This is the 19th day of my fast. Today's July 26th. My brother Scott's birthday. He's 3 years younger than me. To tell you the truth, I don't remember how old I am. I don't know if I'm 62 or 63. I suppose he's about 60, anyway. You know, today is a very sad day for me. Not because it's my brother's birthday. Tell you the truth, it's because, yesterday, on my 18th day of fasting, I spent some time, talking about the three captains. Sun Tzu, which is the last one I talked about, the Buddha, and Jesus Christ. And so as the flow would have it, I continued absorbing historical data regarding war, because Sun Tzu, after all, wrote The Art of War, and I felt it my duty to inform you that you better study The Art of War, because the barbarians still exist, and they will come and they will kill you. And if you're not prepared to fight, you're going to die. And you're going to see your children die. And you're going to see your parents die. And you're going to see everybody who you love die. And they're going to torture you. And they're going to make you do things, unspeakable things, that you would never, in 1,000 years, ever believe that you would do. And they will do this just to prove to you that you can be manipulated, that all you are is flesh and blood. And by means of torture, you will comply. They will bend you, they will break you, physically and mentally. President Bush, the one who I served under, George Bush, the father, during the Gulf War, he said that, Hussein was like the axis of evil. And of course, they're saying that he had weapons of mass destruction. Just like today, they're talking about Iran. That's all a bunch of bullshit. You never had weapons of mass destruction. It's like when John F. Kennedy was assassinated. Well, hang on a second, Right. I'm gonna get this book right here. That guy laying down. I don't know why, sometimes I make correlations in my mind, and then as quickly as they come, they go. I don't remember why I was making an association between the lies. Probably because of lies. Like John F. Kennedy's assassination. The magic bullet that could change directions in midair. Then that Ruby guy, killing Oswald, Harvey Oswald or something like that. Said he shot the president from, like way far away with a $20 rifle and a magic bullet. Look. John F. Kennedy, United States ship. That was the ship I was on. T.S. Eliot said, "In my beginning is my end." And in my life, I've come to find out that there's a lot of truth behind that statement. I don't really know what it all means. Look, I know Bob Dylan came on the scene around the time I was born. And John F. Kennedy, I think he was president when I was born. He was my first president. And he got assassinated. I remember watching on the TV when we went to the moon. That was John F. Kennedy. And the reason he did that is because he knew that everything that we would develop in order to get to the moon, everything that had to be developed. The goal of getting to the moon, many byproducts, is, well, I think one of them was Tang, that drink you drink. That's just kind of a joke, but it's true. He utilized the systems approach when in the development of all the technologies that had to be developed for us to get to the moon. They utilized what they call the systems approach to industry. Anyway, it's not from the top down. It's not hierarchical. That's the difference between the systems approach and the hierarchical approach. All right. It's not like the military, especially not like the Third Reich. That's the Nazi regime, the SS. All right. Now, look. I said this is a sad day. I just got done listening to Murder Most Foul because I was thinking about John F. Kennedy. And, okay, when I woke up, I fell asleep last night listening to stuff like about Normandy. I think I fell asleep during the documentary about, the invasion of the Normandy beaches and all like that stuff. Because I had listened to a lot of other stuff about the Nazi camps and everything. What do they call them? Well, they were the killing camps. I mean, there's a name for it. The extermination camps. And look, and I got stuff going on around in my head. Like when I woke up, the song that was playing in my head was a song by Bob Dylan. Yeah, I got Bob Dylan from 1961 to 2012, and the song was. So I picked out some songs. I went through this book, you know. I picked up some songs that are kind of like resonating with me, like Seven Curses. That one resonates with me at this time right now. But the one I was thinking of is With God on Our Side. And I already told you about that mantra that I had, you know, at one time when I thought we were under attack. And I said, you know, God Almighty, explicitives or something, expletives, actually it turned into my mantra and my prayer even. God Almighty, Jesus Christ, holy shit. Okay. You know, look, when we killed John F. Kennedy, okay, I'm not saying me, I'm totally against that, okay, but I have to say we, because we are complicit, all right? Just like we killed Jesus Christ, yeah, we killed John F. Kennedy, the human race. Well, when he got shot in the head that day, that's the place where faith, hope, and charity died. That's the place where faith, hope, and charity died. You know what? The Nazi extermination camps, that's the place where faith, hope, and charity died too. You know what? When they crucified Jesus Christ on the cross, the Jews, that's where faith, hope, and charity died too. All right, I'm gonna have to say that well, I'll read you this part, and with God on our side. So now I'm leaving, I'm weary as hell. The confusion I'm feeling, ain't no tongue can tell. Yeah, that's the words. Like, when I woke up today, that's the words that were resounding in my mind and in my heart, you know. Right there. The confusion I'm feeling, ain't no tongue can tell. This is the last part of God's on Our Side. You know, I should just read this whole thing because they talk about, you know, Germany. Bob Dylan says, you know, now Germany too has God on their side. Well, I think I want to talk about those Nazi death camps for a bit. But I'm going to read this. I'm going to read this to you. My glasses don't fall off my head. Oh, my name, it is nothing. My age, it means less. The country I come from is called the Midwest, and I come from the Midwest. I do. I come from Indiana. That's the Midwest. The country I come from. Oh, man. Hard for me to actually see. Yeah. Is called the Midwest. Is taught and brought up there it's taught and brought up there the laws to abide, and that the land that I live in has God on its side. Oh, the history books tell it, They tell it so well. The cavalry's charged, the Indians fell. The cavalry's charged, the Indians died. Oh, the country was young, with God on its side. Oh, the Spanish-American War had its day, and the Civil War too was soon laid away. And the names of the heroes I was made to memorize, with guns in their hands and God on their side. Oh, the First World War, boys, it closed out its fate. The reason for fighting. The reason for fighting I never got straight. But I learned to accept it with pride. For you don't count the dead when God's on your side. When the Second World War came to an end, we forgave the Germans and we were friends. Though they murdered 6 million in the ovens they fried. The Germans now too have God on their side. I've learned to hate the Russians all through my whole life. If another war starts, it's them we must fight. To hate them and fear them, to run and to hide, and accept it all bravely, with God on my side. But now we got weapons of chemical dust. If fire them we're forced to, then fire them we must. One push of the button, and a shot the world wide. And you never ask questions when God's on your side. Through many dark hours, I've been thinking about this. That Jesus Christ was betrayed with a kiss. But I can't think for you. You'll have to decide whether Judas Iscariot had God on his side. So now I'm leaving. I'm weary as hell. The confusion I'm feeling, ain't no tongue can tell. The words fill my head and fall to the floor. If God's on our side, he'll stop the next war. Oh. Well, you know, I get a little bit emotional about some of that stuff. I get a little bit angry too. About the hypocrisy. About the cover-ups. You know, I'm torn between, you know. Oh, look, let me put it this way. All right. And, there was a lady who worked for the, the Third Reich. I mean, they did the extermination camps. And they needed more people, so they enlisted women. They put women in charge, you know. And there was one woman who were running one of the death camps, and she did a lot of cruel stuff. But one thing in particular, this little girl was talking to somebody on the opposite side of the barbed wire fence, and a little girl. Okay, her mom was nearby, to witness this. So, because the little girl was talking to somebody that she's seen on the other side of the barbed wire fence, I don't know who it was. Could have been one of her childhood friends or something like that. I'm talking about a little girl, though, all right? A little girl don't know any better. A little girl trying to make the best of a bad situation. A little girl following the dictates of her heart. A little girl still with love, hope, and faith. All right? Well, that little girl was standing there, innocent. Just a little girl with a little girl's heart. And this woman, not far removed from being a little girl herself, young. As I recall, maybe about 20. She went over there and took that little girl's head and pulled both of her eyes out. She pulled the little girl's eyes right out of her head with her bare hands, like this. Stick it in there and rip it out. And your eyeballs, they have like a cable of fiber that goes from your eyeball to your brain, and that's how you see. And you can put your eyeball back in your head if it gets popped out. I mean, my friend Wayne Mraz, his brother's eye got popped out from a boomerang. It hit him in the eye and it popped his eye out. They put his eye back in his head. But, I mean, you got to leave it attached to the fiber bundle of nerves. Well, obviously, she ripped them right out of her head. right out of her brain, right out of the eye socket. No more eyes. Okay. Well, this is just one little example, okay, of the cruelty. There's a saying that says power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And when these people were given power, the saying says, "Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned." Well, I don't know about hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, but this lady had fury. She ripped the little girl's eyes right out of her head. This same woman that I'm talking about, for sport, she had a German Shepherd, and she would attack. She would let her German Shepherd, she would command her German Shepherd to attack whoever she wanted the German Shepherd to attack, just to maul the person. Look, they used the Jews and black people too, there's all kinds of people, just for experimentation. Even like they would inject their eyeballs at one time, they were experimenting on trying to change the color of eyes. So they injected their eyeballs with, some kind of glue. Just, with a needle, stuck it right in their eyeballs, injected it with glue, try to make their eyes, change color and stuff, They would sew like twins together, and try to make them, turn them into like congenital twins that are born, hooked together. Yeah, stuff like that. They would just because they liked to do it. They would kill people that had tattoos, for example, because if they had some kind of cool tattoo or something, maybe a tattoo of their girlfriend, or a woman, or whatever the tattoo, well, they would, kill them and just to skin them, and then they would make lampshades and book covers and stuff like that out of the skin. And they would experiment, with different chemicals to find out, how they could, tan the human skin, the best. Yeah. Sometimes, some people like to give presents, to, people in power and stuff, give them a nice purse made out of Jewish leather, Jewish hide, or whatever, It would take the little kids, like, I don't know, like little tiny ones, they can, run like 3 years old, 3, 4, 5 years old, and give them a running start, and then let the dogs loose, and they would make bets and stuff about, who could, get the farthest, or mock them, like when they're crying and screaming, and let the dogs just eat them. Then one occasion they took in front of the little kid's mom. I don't know if it was a boy or a girl. I'm thinking it was a boy, but a little kid enough that you could pick up and sling against a wall. Okay, well, they told the mother, if she cried, she'd be shot in the head, and so they took her little child and by the feet, and then just took him by the feet, and then just swung him like a baseball bat with his head against a brick wall, block wall. Yeah. They would take their children away from them, and then separate people from their families and stuff like that, and then tell them what kind of gruesome deaths they died, how they suffered. Women come in, if they were good looking or something like that, well, they'd make they'd put them in a brothel, and they would be raped. People, they would reward people like the guards and stuff like that for their reward. They'd give them 20 minutes with a woman that they put in there. They'd have sex with them and just rape them. Just rape them, like, the women be raped, like, well, they said, common to put out like about 15 times a day. And if you didn't, if the women didn't act like they enjoyed it or something, or if they gave, like, made the other person who was raping them a funny feeling, and then so the person gave them a bad report or something, well, then they would be beaten. Okay, they're beaten into alignment. I'm talking before about, like, a woman getting a broomstick, stuck up her vagina, and so she couldn't have kids no more. Well, they would force people to conceive children, and just so they could experiment on the babies, and experiment on pregnant women. Okay. It's not the first time these kinds of atrocious behaviors took place. They did it to black people. There's a movie I was thinking about with Leonardo DiCaprio. That one is called Django. I'm pretty sure it's called Django. And in that one, well, they did the same thing. They made people fight each other, and for sport. They make people fight each other for sport. even the Jews had to fight the Jews or whoever, for sport. Just like in the Gladiator. I mean, the people throughout history have made sport out of forcing people to fight each other. They did that in the Nazi camps too. Just like they did when there was slavery. People treating people like property. Look, I'm talking about the place where faith, hope, and charity dies. And if you can find God there, I want to tell you, all right, I lost my appetite. And this is an example about how when you change your attitude, your actions will change. Okay? You can change your actions and then your attitude will change. But you can also change your attitude and then your actions will change. And this is how this one worked for me. My attitude changed when I seen all these people, starving people. And I thought to myself, I lost my appetite. I haven't eaten anything for now. I'm in my 19th day. And you know what? When I seen these starving people, I lost my appetite. And I said to myself, you know what? It's like, I think it's Ray Charles sang a song, None of Us Are Free. As long as one of us is chained, none of us are free. And my meager sufferings are they're like, now I feel embarrassed to even like talk about it. I mean, put the knife to my neck. Put the knife to my throat. Let me not eat until my brother or my sister is free. None of us are free. While one of us is chained, none of us are free. And I don't know, it's just the culmination of thinking about the horrific, unspeakable crimes against humanity. And then in those situations, realizing, it's a place where faith, hope, and charity dies. This is a land of Sun Tzu. And they killed Jesus, killed John F. Kennedy. Look, you could say like, okay, it just coincidentally, I mean, like, what if a person said, well, the Jews suffered the Holocaust because the Jews are the ones that killed Jesus Christ? Maybe they were cursed? Maybe that's divine retribution or punishment? Well, somebody might say that, okay. I don't really think that's true. I don't think that's really the way it works. I don't think God is so petty, if there is a God in heaven or something like that, like dictating, like they present, in the Bible and stuff. Kind of like, God is actually, dictating what happens in this world and everything, like it's God's dream. Look, whatever the truth may be, I just personally don't think God's that petty. I don't take the position that I try to make God out to be like a human being. All right. But God's not on our side. I can tell you that. God is not on our side, right? Any more than God is on the side of Judas Iscariot. And the fact is, we are going to be abandoned by God. These are crimes against humanity. It's not, when Job is a good example, right? Job couldn't condemn God. Job was a righteous and an upright man, and he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't deserve all the stuff that he went through. Job is the epitome of suffering. Okay, his whole family got killed. He got diseases. Everything. More punishment that he could bear, except just don't take his life. Just like in the Nazi camps, make him suffer till the end. Until they're totally demoralized. Where look in their eyes, all you see is emptiness. There's no more spark of life left. The horrors and the tragedy have blinded you to ever be able to ever believe or to see anything good again. Your ability to have faith, hope, and love put out. Just like just like Leonard Cohen's song, which I should play that one on my next talk, okay? Leonard, So You Want It Darker. 1,000 candles burning for a love that never came. Being plunged into darkness and horror. Well, I'm just going to call this one Darkness and Horror in the land of Sun Tzu. All right, bye.